What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Midweek Athlete Pod. We have another special guest in the building.
Yes, we do.
We have another special guest. He's the co-host of the Not Your Weekly Sports podcast, which is also on Spotify, so make sure y'all check that out. He's a Travis High alum, and he's one of the smoothest lefty scorers I've seen in my lifetime. So give it up for our boy Vala.
Hey. Appreciate y'all having the best 5'10" left-handed Iranian hooper in the city.
Hey, I'm not going to lie, and I know Keith not here to defend himself. He used to give Keith the business. Oh, my God.
It was tough. Yeah, he had me on the cross-country track, but on the court, it was a different story. Keith, if you're listening to this episode, I'd love to rekindle this basketball rivalry.
You used to give that man work. Oh,
The
my
I'm not going to
Blues.
run sprints, but I'll do everything else.
Got you.
All right, let's jump right into it. So the reserves are supposed to be announced tomorrow for the NBA All-Star Game. So just a reminder, the starters are for the West are LeBron, KD, Jokic, Luka, and Shai Gilgeous. And for the East, we have Giannis, Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Dame, and Tatum. So we're going to predict the next 7. So special guests, you go first. You can start East or West, my brother.
So just to preface all this, I want to ask you guys a question before we get into the reserves here, which needs to be asked before every All-Star Game announcement. The process that they pick these All-Stars, right?
Yeah.
So as not Kyle Korver, I'm thinking of the wrong white basketball player. As JJ Redditt pointed out on his podcast, it's harder than ever now to make an All-Star game.
No,
It is.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
It is.
The expansion of the league, the 15-man rosters, the two-way capabilities that we have. You have about a 5% chance as an NBA player to make an All-Star game today, whereas in the 50s and 60s, you had a 25% chance.
Yeah.
In the 80s, you had a 17% chance. In the 90s, it was down to about 12. And now it's harder than ever, so I feel like the snubs are going to be deeper than previous lists.
For sure.
Deeper than ever.
For sure.
And there's going to be some guys that we don't make on there. But before we get into that, is there anyone in the West you guys think didn't deserve a starting gig in the starting 5, the 5 best, most capable players in the Western Conference?
I do. LeBron James.
You don't
LeBron
think?
James.
You're saving that
You
bullet for
don't
the episode.
think-
I have been LeBron James.
What?
Look at the West starters. SGA. You gonna put Steph in front of him?
One of the 5 best players in the world.
You got, and then at the 2, who's the other?
Luka.
Luka. You're not taking Luka out.
No.
And then your front court, you've got KD, Jokic. Bron.
Okay.
Bron is the least deserving out of those 5.
Oh my.
Based off of his year. He's not even having the best year of the Lakers on his own team. That's Anthony Davis.
Look, I look at this table of hosts here that I had in front of me. The highest level of sports you guys have played in Texas at the 5A varsity level and beyond. Y'all are capable, intelligent athletes. But, Alan, I don't hear any lies in any of what you said.
Thank you. Thank you.
The greatest player in NBA history, the greatest player in basketball, right? I mean, these are smart listeners. The fans are students of the game, and you guys are the teachers. You have responsibility to pass that truth on to them.
Correct.
The greatest player in the history of the game in his, what is this, year 20 now?
20.
No,
21.
21?
Yeah.
39-year-old man is slowing down a little bit. Right, he's not able to play both sides of the basketball anymore. The way
Not
he used to.
defensively, for
Not
sure.
defensively.
I mean,
and that's fair.
LeBron
Yes.
used to be, by all measures, the greatest safety in the history of basketball.
For sure.
I call him
Agreed.
defensively.
Agreed.
And when you lose that capability almost entirely defensively because he has to preserve that energy, it's going to kind of sway the balance one way or the other in terms of who you can get to maximize your 3 spot in the West. So if we're going to start somewhere, I think LeBron would be the weakest link. So snubs, blame Daddy LeBron for it. He's working your next CBA agreement, so I'm sure you're not going to lie.
Him and Chris Paul.
Number 1 reserve right off the bat, guys. I think the guy who's most deserving of this spot has to be the guy playing for arguably the best team in the league. That's Anthony Edwards.
For
me.
sure.
For sure.
I think it's safe to say we all got Anthony.
Ant-Man is definitely
Edwards,
on all the lists.
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think we're mostly going to be together on like the first 5 reserves.
Oh, yeah.
And the
I
last
think
2
so.
might be switch-ups. Devin Booker's my other one.
I have Devin Booker.
The most prolific 2 guard, probably the most versatile scorer in the game. He dropped a Kardashian to better himself, so he didn't get trapped down. So by all measures, Devin Booker is versatile in the ways he's able to succeed. Those two, I think, are locks. Now it starts to get a little bit, I think we might start going back and forward here. Kawhi is my third guy, simply for the reason that he's finally showing that he can stay on the court.
For the first time in, 5-6 years?
5 years.
And doing it not only at an elite level, but the Clippers are winning, guys. The Clippers are the hottest team in basketball over the last 20 games. After this initial James Harden experiment was a little questionable, but here they are, and Kawhi Leonard's the best player on that team. So I have him on there as well. And then my last, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anthony Davis is the best player on the Lakers, so he's going to get on there. And how weird for the Lakers to have 2 All-Stars but still battling for a play-in spot.
Right.
Paul George.
Speaking facts.
PG.
I'm going to bring PG into the fold as well. Again, the second best player on this Clippers team. Still a 25, 7-5 guy anywhere you split it. My last 2, you guys are going to disagree with both of these. If you're smart basketball fans, these are passion picks for me.
Okay.
Stephen Curry. I want to see Steph play in the All-Star game. I don't think he's the most deserving, but he's still Steph Curry.
Steph Curry.
And then last but not least, Houston, you make me so happy.
Sengun.
Alp, man.
Man.
You talk about a center on this roster that can make the game fun, that can push the pace, that can play with these guys. And by the way, is having by all metrics, advanced numbers, a top 15 season. I got to throw an H-Town guy in the mix, man.
Now, I have a question for you. Do you think that Sengun, this is a year early for Sengun, that he might be one of those guys that has a breakout year, but he doesn't make the All-Star team, and they put him in next year?
I think the league will.
Okay.
They will end up doing that. However, I think Sengun is a year late. This guy, we're going to do more on Sengun when we get to the Rockets segment of this podcast, but 18-year-old kid who is the MVP of the third best basketball league in the world, the Turkish league, playing against grown men who just got buried, unfortunately, by a poor evaluating talent front office in the Houston Rockets.
Agreed.
And now that he's been forced into this role, here we go. You have NBA players. You have NBA stars calling him Baby Jokic. These aren't fans. These aren't Turkish people.
No.
This is Paul George on his podcast. This is JJ Redick on his podcast.
Correct.
This is LeBron talking about him in post-game interviews. Alperen Şengün's here. But, Alan, I do agree with you that the narrative is going to be 1 year away.
Yeah. Go ahead, Evan. You could go next.
All right. So, Vala, we're actually kind of spot on. So,
Smart man.
my reserves, I think it was safe to say Anthony Edwards is definitely a reserve.
For sure.
I have Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, Paul George, Devin Booker, and then my last 2, I have Steph as well, but I also have Lauri Markkanen.
Ooh, I haven't heard that one.
Deserving.
I have Lauri Markkanen in that. So my snubs are obviously Kyrie, Zion, B.I., Sabonis, Cat, and then Alperen.
Wait a minute. Did you say Zion
I did.
and Brandon Ingram?
They're both averaging at least 21 a game, but obviously they're not playing a lot of games. But you can, like I said, you can sway it either way. No matter who you put in that, somebody's gonna catch a snub.
I agree.
So I was stuck between Alp and Lauri, but I just feel like Alp. He's right there.
He is right there.
He's right there. But I feel like Lauri, most improved player. Like wasn't he a starter last year in last year's All-Star game?
Not a starter.
He made the team.
But he made it. So
Yeah.
he's averaging 25 and 8. So I'm.
It's just he's in Utah.
I know.
Like,
That's
who
tough.
watches the Jazz?
But the thing is, if Alp was in Utah,
who would watch him in Utah?
exactly.
Have you guys seen? Have y'all been to a Jazz game in that stadium?
My wife has.
I'm not going to Utah.
Hey, it's a lot of white people. Really is. Lauri Markkanen in that city, a 7-foot-tall white guy who can stretch the court, must be a god. But Alan, in the NBA market, playing for the Jazz and just kind of now breaking out of the scene like Lauri has. Y'all, we're 3 years removed from him being a constant yearly trade block rumor guy for the Chicago Bulls.
Correct.
And now he's evolved his game to be the prototypical perfect big in a pick and roll, pick and pop
perfect
scheme.
Big, yes.
Where would y'all want to see him?
Him?
Yeah, he's one of those guys. You don't know what Utah's going to do.
If you asking me honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing him in a Rockets uniform. I'm
No.
not even gonna
Send
lie
him
to
to
you.
Brooklyn.
Send him to Brooklyn.
Brooklyn needs a big. They need somebody that can
That's actually a
stretch,
good
that can
point.
handle
Yeah.
it. They got Bridges. You got Spencer Dinwiddie winning your one. You got Cam Thomas getting buckets off the bench. Brooklyn would be the spot.
It'd be a nice compliment
that.
to Claxton's defense as well,
sure.
kind of hiding those blemishes of Markkanen in the front
Because
court.
he's not strong enough. Nick is he's frail. He's
Yeah.
a frailer guy, but he's athletic and he can get up and down.
Yeah.
Who you got, Wes?
I
Your
have
reserves.
Ant-Man, Devin Booker, AD, Steph, Paul George, last one, De'Aaron Fox.
Yep. Okay, so we're close.
Yeah.
De'Aaron Fox,
We're
by all
close.
measures, if you're being objective about this, needs to take Steph's spot on my list. I mean, he's given you, 30 and 8, and he's been
It's 27 and 8.
been a problem
27-8.
defensively,
no,
too.
He's been awesome.
As we saw when they played the Warriors this last week, he kind of put the clamps on Steph late in the game. And
did.
I feel like there's moments in the season that if you take snapshots of an NBA season and remember, this is the reason this team made it here. This is the reason this player got X accolade or Y accolade or career accomplishment. I think that's one of those moments when we look back and the award season's upon us that you look at De'Aaron Fox and say, is the mantle being passed? Steph's 35. He doesn't look like the Steph of a couple years ago, even though he's still having an all-star capable season.
And y'all about to say he's still dangerous.
Yeah, he is.
That's the crazy
These
thing.
guards in the West, man, it's just getting better and better and better every year. So Steph might only make maybe one more All-Star game.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's how deep it is.
He's
That
got
is
the
crazy
respect
to
of the
think about.
coaches. I think he'll get in on this year's
Oh,
list,
yeah.
though.
Yeah.
He'll get in for sure, especially since he's having that three-point shootout with Sabrina.
Yeah.
They going to put him in the game.
All right, so let's
East.
Let's switch over to the East. So Vala, who are your 7 reserves for the East?
I think they actually got the East right. Do you guys have
I think so.
anyone?
Oh, for sure.
No, they didn't.
You don't think they got the starting lineup right?
Dame.
yeah, I was about to say, I apologize.
Interesting.
Yes,
So
because Dame shouldn't be all.
Let me guess who you guys have over Dame. I'm going to assume y'all have Jalen Brunson
I
as the
do.
starter.
Yeah,
sure
I
do.
do.
Smart guys. Okay.
Sure do.
That's fair. So I would go as my reserves, Brunson, number one,
For
obviously.
sure.
For sure.
The engine of the Knicks offense, and ever so frustrating to see them not want to run their offense through him in the playoffs.
Right.
Look at what he did with Dallas 2 years ago in rounds 1 and 2, right? Luka missed 3 games or 4 games in that round 1 series. And he took the
He
Mavericks
carried 'em.
offense past the Western Conference first round. And then you see the Knicks, and for some reason, they're dead set on incorporating Julius Randle as the primary focus.
Who can
in the
only
playoffs.
go left.
Only goes
He
left.
should be on your enough is enough list.
Yeah, man, guys, stay tuned. Enough is enough list. I have a couple names to put on there, but we got to wait till Everest comes back.
You go ahead.
So Brunson, I got number 1, obviously.
Okay.
I think Donovan Mitchell is elite.
He is.
The Cavs have been a disappointment. I thought a couple of years back when their point guard took that leap. What's his name?
Darius Garland.
Garland.
When Garland took that leap, I called him the mini Steve Nash. His game is modeled so tightly after him.
It is.
And then they had Jared Allen and the slew of young guys. And unfortunately, they haven't been able to put everything together at the same time. But Mitchell's been the one consistency in that offense, playing elite. And one of those guys that always steps up in the playoffs, too.
Agreed.
For as much as I hate the Jazz, and it was a pleasure as a Houston fan watching James Harden spank them after nights out at the strip club. Mitchell showed up every time, man, and he's a dangerous guy I want to see on there. Jimmy Butler, for me, has to make it as well. Respect is given where respect is due. Sure, he'll end up a Knicks before the season is over, but at least for now, he's a
Knick.
reserve.
Okay.
Yep. Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, when you start the season averaging 30 for the first 2 weeks, playing next to Joel as the 3rd best team in the East, you're going to get on that list. And then my last 3, I've got Bam Adebayo as the backup big, Jaylen Brown, and this one might surprise you guys. I think this is the real difference maker in the Eastern Conference. This one player is going to swing things and give you a new Eastern Conference champion. And that player is Kristaps Porzingis. He's my last reserve on this list. I think he's entirely changed the dynamic of Boston. And I don't want to give you guys the wrong assumption that, I'm going off of wins, but I think there is something to be said about Kristaps and the way he's been used in the NBA ever since those first 2 unicorn seasons in New York.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then he tore his ACL in the playoffs, and then it just seemed to all go downhill after that.
Yeah, he had a promising start with Luka in Dallas, and then they turned him into a corner 3-point shooter. And now it seems like he's kind of that missing plug for the Celtics, man. A lot of Celtics fans might say that Derek White is more deserving of this All-Star nod over Kristaps.
That's a name I've been seeing a lot.
Yeah, but Kristaps, 7-footer, can stretch the floor, can dunk the ball. I think it would be just funner to see him in that role as opposed to a fundamentals guy like Derek White.
Okay.
Go ahead, Evan.
So again, I think we're pretty similar. So I have Jaylen Brown. I also have Porzingis. I have Donovan Mitchell. I have Jalen Brunson. I have Tyrese Maxey. And these last two was a bit of a stretch, but I feel like they're having better years. So I have Paolo Banchero, and I have DeMar DeRozan.
DeMar.
I have DeMar DeRozan.
Okay.
I have DeMar. So that's my back seven.
All right.
Paolo's a list I've seen on a lot of media guys.
Yeah.
A name I've seen a lot of media guys' lists. I mean, baby LeBron maybe, or baby Royce White that we thought the Rockets were going to get those years back.
Royce White, I thought he was going to be so
That's
good.
still-
Shout out to Southwest Airlines. But yeah, man, for a team that's, surpassed all expectations in the Orlando Magic, Paolo, all being a second-year player, is the leading guy for them.
He is.
He is, for sure.
So deserving as well.
Wes, who you got?
One question for the Magic as you watch them play. We've been having an active debate on this pod. I really wish Ev was here for this.
Oh, I know what you're about to. Yeah.
Is Jalen Suggs going to be better than anyone on the Houston Rockets?
I think
Mainly a Jalen Green.
Mainly Jalen Green.
Is he going to be better than Jalen Green? Wow. I think, okay, so Suggs, I think, would contribute more to a playoff product right now than Jalen Green ever could.
Agreed.
fair.
Suggs
That's
grew,
fair.
Suggs
That's
grew
fair.
up winning, right? Where did he go to college? He went to Gonzaga.
And hit that buzzer beater.
The buzzer beater in Gonzaga, which shot him up into lottery status. Prior to that, he was a low first-round pick, but a winner there. Quarterback of his high school football team, leader in the locker room, winner there. He's one of those guys that brings you those intangibles, but I don't know necessarily what the ceiling is with his skill set. Being a smaller, more compact guard who doesn't necessarily stretch the floor the way you want to.
Correct.
So as a ceiling guy, as a potential top 3 to 4 guy on a championship team, he's never going to be that. That's not in his trajectory, I don't think. But as a solid top 7 guy in a playoff rotation consistently, I see him occupying a role very similar to maybe like a Marcus Smart in Boston as a culture guy and a hound on both sides of the ball as well.
That's not bad.
I
Not bad
like
at all.
that. All right. Well, let me get into mine. Jalen Brunson, obvious. Should have been a starter.
Should have been a starter.
The NBA, y'all should have done something about that. Tyrese Maxey, obvious. Jalen Brown, Bam, Spider, and then my last two, Trae Young. He's leading. He's second in the NBA in assists behind Halliburton.
Future Houston Rocket, yeah.
I would love to see him in Houston.
I would love
and
that
then I have the lefty himself, Julius Randle. I feel like the Knicks deserve 2 All-Stars, man. Ever since they got OG Anunoby, they've been, I think, 13-2, one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. They've made it up to number 3 in the East now. Yeah. Like, I love this Knicks team, but Randall's not going to play anyway, so I put Paolo replaces Randall on the All-Star team because Julius isn't going to play. And then also, Embiid probably won't play because of that knee injury he got.
Yeah, he probably won't play.
So, as his replacement, I put Scotty Barnes.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to go Jared Allen here. Okay.
Scotty Barnes. I gotta show Scotty some love, man.
What's going on with this 2021 draft class shout out that you get? Scotty Barnes, Jalen.
Love Scotty Barnes.
Do you want to do everything you can to bring down Jalen Green on this podcast?
No. Seriously. What I want to do, and I'm going to look, this is my camera right here. I'm going to look into the camera.
Oh, my God.
It's not the fact that I want to tear down Jalen Green. It's not what I want to do. What I want Jalen Green to do is fulfill his potential that he has, and he can be one of the best players in the NBA. His talent demands he be that good, and it is a shame that Alfred Sengun is this much better than you at this point in your development. You should be better. I have more for you, Jalen, but I'm gonna hold off till later.
I'm ready.
All right. So y'all let us know y'all's predictions for the All-Star reserves. So let's jump right into the next one. So last weekend there was a big weekend in football, AFC NFC Championship. So we're gonna go over the recap, but we're also gonna pick our Super Bowl.
Damn you,
We're
Lamar.
gonna see. So let's start off with the AFC Ravens and Chiefs. Vala, what was your reaction to that game?
Bewilderment, man. I was in Baltimore for Ravens Texans, and everything I saw from that game, other than the depression that I was experiencing internally, but externally, everything that I saw there was a Super Bowl team. Like the Ravens looked like the best team in football that I'd seen in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And Lamar, like you guys shouted out on the podcast last week, really like by far solidified himself as the best running quarterback ever. And what a damn shame that Michael Vick in 2010 didn't at least get an all-pro.
That I thought he did.
For what he did with that Eagles
I had to
team,
look that up myself.
Yeah.
coming
Crazy.
back after he outraged people with the dog incident and having the 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and bringing that Eagles team to win that tough division. But anyways, we saw a blunder unlike anything. And sometimes when you're a dynasty, like the Chiefs are a dynasty.
They are.
Like other teams in sports, I'm going to mention the Warriors are a dynasty. You got to get lucky, man.
You got
Agreed.
You got to get lucky. You got to
get lucky.
The other team has to slip up, right? Like the Rockets have to miss 27 threes in a row for the Warriors
That
to
was
win
the
that.
pressing.
That still hurts my heart to
The-
this day.
the
That
Ch-
still hurts.
The Chiefs have to have Flowers fumble the ball on the 1
On the
yard line.
one.
And the Ravens have their worst turnover margin of the entire season, -3, for them to actually advance and get, Patrick Mahomes' second ever playoff win on the road. So kudos to them for taking care of business, but I don't think the better team won.
Not at all.
And now the Chiefs, aside from being the most hated political team by conservative Americans because of Taylor Swift
Correct.
and Travis Kelce, have now turned into, in my head, the San Antonio Spurs of football, where they're just there every single year, and they're the big brother you got to get over.
That's solid.
That's a good comparison.
Ravens choked, plain and simple. I
agree.
I told you last week they was gonna lose. I told you. I told you I just had this feeling that they were going to lose. I didn't want them to lose. I just had it.
In Baltimore, too.
In Baltimore, Zay Flowers fumbles. But not only does he fumble, the play before that,
The
what
taunting.
happened? He got hit for taunting, and they got pushed back, right?
Right.
Then he fumbled. And then Lamar, 2 costly picks. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like
And a
literally
fumble.
one thing-
Don't leave out the fumble.
One thing after another, and then one thing before I turn it over to you, Wes. We talked about right before the playoffs. We talked about how Patrick Mahomes is like this. This is going to be his first true test of the playoffs because
Correct.
he's never been outside of Arrowhead. That man went to 2 of the toughest stadiums, arguably in the NFL, Buffalo and Baltimore, and came out clean. Just.
Give him his flowers.
You have to give him his flowers at that point. Because I even said, I was like, damn, like he's about to go to Buffalo.
I wasn't worried about him going to Buffalo.
I mean, I kind of was.
You got to pay me to trust Josh Allen.
I kind of was, but I'm just saying, like he goes to 2 of the toughest stadiums and he comes out winners in both.
He did.
You have to give that man his flowers. So, I mean, I didn't think it was going to be like kind of lopsided like that, but
I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at the game, right, in the first half, the Chiefs came out and they punched Baltimore in the mouth. They came right at them, got up early, quick. But for me, the turning point in the game wasn't just the Zay Flowers fumble. To me, the turning point in the game was much earlier than that when Lamar fumbled, when Karlaftis recovered the fumble. That was a turning point in the game to me because I feel like Baltimore was starting to gain some more momentum, and the Chiefs took it right back instantly. Another big part of this game that no one's really been talking about, I guess because it's Lamar and he's pulverizing. What the hell was the Ravens' offensive game plan? You run the ball 6 times? 6 times with your running backs. You've had the number 1 rushing offense in football all season long, and you get to the AFC Championship game at home, and you don't run the ball. I'm a Falcons fan, guys. I know the feeling of getting to a championship game and not doing what you did to get there.
Right.
So it just didn't make any sense to me. And the other part, the one main criticism I have about Lamar, you're a great player. You're about to be a 2-time MVP. The hell with what anybody says, any of these critics. Run the damn ball, man. Stop standing in the pocket like you're Mahomes. Run.
It almost seemed like he was trying to have one of those standoffs for the ages with Patrick Mahomes, because even against the Texans, when the Texans were tied going into the half, they were dominating time of possession against us, and a lot of it was broken plays off of Lamar Jackson runs.
Correct.
So to go away from that, again, like to be a Baltimore fan and see that live, that's got to be beyond frustrating.
It's crushing. It's crushing. And Lamar, man, we all, hey, Lamar coming. Omar coming from the wire.
Yo.
You got it. Omar always stood on his square. You got to do the same, Lamar.
You've seen The Wire growing up, Evan?
Yeah.
Okay, so shout out to CBS. At the very end of the game, I don't know who the broadcaster was. I don't know if you guys heard this, but he said, if you're going to come after the king, you best not miss. And ladies and gentlemen, the Ravens missed. I was like, God damn, you're going to bring a Wire reference on these fools' funeral on live television?
Yeah.
I want to say it was Romo. I think Romo said that.
It might have been Romo, yeah. It seems like something Romo would have the balls to say in Baltimore.
So,
seeing as if he never made a championship game.
all right.
That's a
So
whole nother
let's
story.
move on. Let's move on to the NFC. So 49ers and Lions. What was your take on that?
Again, another
epic
you guys
collapse.
see the theme here. Another choke job by a quarterback we thought was more deserving. Man, I saw the wild card matchup they had with the Rams, and again, I thought this was it. Like Jared Goff, you've been rehabbed. This coaching staff has really like cradled you and brought you back into relevancy after the mental struggles you had being traded away from the Rams as the #1 overall pick. He overcame those demons in an exciting wild card matchup against Matt Stafford and the former Super Bowl champions. And then he comes out and lays a last minute egg. Again, another choke job against this Niners team. I don't necessarily think this is a case where the better team lost and choked the game.
Right.
But the Lions had a golden opportunity here, and they definitely dropped the ball. No pun intended in this game.
Yeah. So for me, like the Ravens, the Lions had too many costly turnovers, especially the second half. So
Gibbs with that fumble was crucial.
The Gibbs fumble broke them.
So I'm going to go through it. So fumbled in the third quarter, which the 49ers scored to tie the game at 24. Next possession, 3 and out, 49ers kick a field goal. Next possession, they went for it on a 4-3, didn't get it, 49ers score 34-24. And then the Lions scored the next possession after that, but at that point, the game was over. It was like 2 minutes left, which they tried the onside kick, almost got it, but I think the guy touched it before it hit the 10-yard line.
I'm waiting for you to make this point.
But I will say this. I've been very critical of Brock Purdy.
Yes, sir.
I've been very, very critical because the last 2 games, he's spearheaded their comebacks.
He has.
I'm going to give the man his flowers.
You think he's there? You think he's in that conversation?
Is he elite?
Yes.
I agree. I've been thinking Brock Purdy was elite.
After this playoff run, yes.
Nice.
I think the Super Bowl is really gonna like elevate it to where like is he a little bit more than elite, or is he just that elite quarterback?
So let me give you this thought challenge here, Alan.
Okay.
You've been on the record as being a little critical of Justin Herbert.
Very.
You think Justin Herbert plugged into this team with Christian McCaffrey in the backfield and the defense they have and that culture that D'Amico built with that team last year, at least on the defensive side, to back you up? You think Herbert gets to this stage?
Absolutely not.
I think he does. I think what you have here is better than what San Diego's built around him.
I agree. My problem with Justin Herbert is not the talent, is not what he can do. It's between the ears. I don't think when these pressure clutch moments come around, he's calm, cool, and collected like he needs to be. And we seen that last year against Jacksonville. Nobody talks about this, but Justin Herbert blew a 20-point lead in a playoff
he
game.
did. That was bad. Yeah, they handed them that game.
Like, what are we talking about? We're comparing him to Mahomes and Burrow and Lamar and Josh Allen, but I don't know any of them that's then blew a 20-point lead in the playoffs. Not once.
Not one.
But Justin Herbert gets a $250 million, and we fire the coach, and we blame injuries, and we talk about the defense, and we bring in Jim Harbaugh, and we're the second best team in our own city. And now, hey, all right, Justin, we believe in you. Y'all need to stop it with this.
I'm gonna make an analogy that's gonna hurt you, but it needs to be said nonetheless. And then I'm gonna ask you guys for an analogy. So first, I think Justin Herbert is Matt Ryan if Matt Ryan's MVP season was extrapolated out for his entire career and he didn't have blunders the way he did,
I actually could agree with that.
That's a really good
I could
take.
agree with that.
The second analogy that I want to ask you guys is y'all are bigger football fans than I am, so I'm hoping to garner some insight from you here. Someone asked me the other day what the Brock Purdy analysis is in terms of defining him as a player in basketball terms.
Ooh.
Could you guys give me something relevant, whether that's a player from the past or an NBA player today?
Who's Brock Purdy as far as an NBA player? He would be a point guard for sure.
My co-host made the analogy that he's basically 2010, 2011 Steph Curry before the Warriors got really nice.
Oh, I
solid.
like that. I like that a lot.
Solid.
You know who Brock Purdy I think is? Because he's a risk taker. He's a gambler. I hate to put this weight on him. I think he's like, in basketball terms, he's like a Jason Kidd.
Oh, wow.
That's good.
He's
solid.
dishing it, getting it to the open guys, will turn down his own points to make sure you shine. But when push comes to shove, I can get to this basket. I can
I was
score.
going to say Steve Nash, but that's
Steve, the only thing about Steve was a better scorer. Steve was a walking bucket.
Steve didn't utilize his scoring enough. That's
No,
one
yeah,
of the
I was gonna say, he
big
didn't
regrets he
utilize it
has about
enough.
his career.
He didn't.
So-
He had the skill set. He just didn't do it.
One of the rare 50, 40, 90 guys in NBA history as well. Yeah, that's a good one. And efficiency is a big mark on Purdy's game as well.
yeah.
Super
He goes from Mr. Irrelevant to in the damn Super Bowl. So that's crazy. So
The Lions choked. Jared Goff, you
Lions
played
choked,
great.
Ravens choked.
Dan Campbell, I don't know what you were doing running the ball on 3rd and goal with under 2 minutes left.
I haven't seen a lot of criticism on Dan Campbell.
That's the part that we don't speak about coaching enough.
But then you got to remember Dan Campbell's been doing that since game one. Like he'll go for it on 4th downs.
But you had
all the
all
time.
3 timeouts with less than
6
2
year identity.
minutes.
I respect that.
But I mean, that's just who he is. So like to criticize him, like, well, damn, like why'd you do that? Like he's been doing that since.
Are we going to talk
game
about
one.
Josh Reynolds? Dropping 2 passes,
No,
the 4th and
no,
3,
I-
and he dropped the over route when he was wide open. Dropped it.
Like I said, Lions choked.
The Lions gonna lie, man. I told y'all last week, the Lions gonna lie. It's not nothing new.
So real quick before we move on to our next topic. So Super Bowl predictions. Chiefs or 49ers? I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of
Evan, man, you gonna pick the Chiefs. I know where you're headed.
no, I don't know, actually. I really don't. I've kind of gone back and forth with it.
I know.
I really have. But what you got?
I feel like when you're back and forward, you got to pick experience. When you're
Yeah.
back and forward,
Yeah.
you go with the team who's been there and the guys who have that championship acumen.
But the thing is, the 49ers have been there too at one point.
But they had Jimmy Garoppolo at
No,
quarterback.
I know, but I'm
I
just
was
saying.
gonna say, who-
I'm saying some of that core has been there.
The coaching staff, a
Yeah.
lot of the core, but as far as the top dog leaders
Yeah.
of that roster, this is a new experience for a lot of them. Most importantly, Brock Purdy.
Yeah.
First time on the big national stage, albeit he overcame it in tough situations the last 2 weeks. Let's see what he can do here. I'm
see.
interested to see, but I think I've got the Chiefs winning it, and it's going to be a fun game because
It's gonna be a really fun
the
game.
Chiefs
should
don't
be.
have that offense that they had last year that can neutralize any defensive game plan. And the Niners do have that defense that can pretty much make anyone play the game they want to play. So those two factors clashing with each other, I think it's going to be a grinded out game.
I think so.
Mahomes, new experience for him having to do that. But ultimately, I have the Chiefs inking this one out.
It's in Vegas, baby. So this is a big Super Bowl. This is a legacy defining Super Bowl for both sides because Mahomes, the Chiefs, Kelsey may or may not retire after the season. Has been the rumors. I doubt it, but he may retire.
No.
Taylor Swift is definitely gonna be there. You got.
Oh my God.
You gotta say it. Andy
NFL
Reid.
media, just go ahead and get
Andy
ready.
Reid.
Donald Trump's Twitter is going to be going crazy.
Facts. Andy Reid can start to make a case to be the GOAT coach if he wins the
Could be.
Super Bowl.
Yep.
He could definitely start to form a case. And then on the other side that no one really talks about, Kyle Shanahan, man, you got to get it done. You was in Atlanta. We blew the lead in the Super Bowl. Here in Houston, I drove right by the team bus for the Falcons after the game. It was very
Did you throw
depressing.
some eggs at it?
Bro, no, it was pitch black.
Okay.
Wasn't nobody on their phone, nothing. It was just pitch black. And then you get to the Super Bowl with the 49ers against the Chiefs in 2019 and you lose.
2019, yeah.
So This is a legacy-defining game. If Christian McCaffrey can win it, he'll go down as one of the 10 to 15 greatest running backs ever right now. Trent Williams is arguably the greatest left tackle in NFL history right now. And Debo, Texas guy, Debo, man, he can get his ring. So it's a legacy-defining game. But currently, I refuse to pick the Chiefs, so I'm just gonna ride with the Niners. I don't want to see. I don't want to see. I don't want to see Taylor Swift on that damn stage after the game.
Yo, all joking aside, like this has been one of the weirdest Super Bowls I've ever seen covered from a media standpoint.
Seasons.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead, Evan. You had about 3 minutes to pick a side.
I'm gonna go with the Chiefs as well.
I knew it.
I'm gonna go with the Chiefs as well.
Wait, Alan, who'd you have?
I got the Niners.
The Niners.
I'm not picking Taylor Swift and the Chiefs. I'm not doing it. I refuse.
I guess it could, because Vala pointed to it. I think the experience is what especially what it comes down to. But I really like your take. Like, this is going to be a legacy Super Bowl. If Patrick Mahomes can win this, like, that's 3 in the last 7?
3 and 5. 3 and 5.
3 and 6. 3 and 7 years.
No, 3 and 5. 3 and 5 years.
Yeah, 3 in the last 5 years. Like, that's pretty wild. And then the underdog, technically, if Brock Purdy can do it, he goes from Mr. Irrelevant to a fucking Super Bowl champion.
He's Kurt Warner.
Yeah, so it's like, it's just. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go with the Chiefs, but it should be a shootout. It should be a shootout with the 49ers offense, and then now with the Chiefs in playoff mode, and they clicking on all cylinders. It should be a shootout for sure.
There's going to be a real reshuffling of who the top tier quarterbacks in the league are this year if Brock Purdy wins, with CJ
definitely
in his zone, with Brock on the up and up, and just the way a lot of NFL offensives sputtered leaves a lot of room for guys to break out this year. I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And like you said, Alan, legacy defining in more ways than one.
Yes.
Sure.
Willard, we're about to enter a new topic. I know you've been holding up to say. I can't see Willard in the background. He's been holding up a sign. Willard, just put the sign down because this may go for a minute.
Yeah, this may go for a little bit because we're passionate about this, Will. So you might as well just sit there and just shut up and chill out. So, all right. So we're based out here in Houston, Texas.
H-Town.
So Vala and Wes, I have a question for y'all. So what do y'all think the state of Houston sports is right now? So with the Rockets, the Texans, the Astros, where do y'all think Houston sports is going and where it is currently?
Good question. I'll start. I think that this is the best place that all of Houston sports has been in a very long time.
I 100% agree.
The Astros coming off the ALCS, the Texans making a very impressive run this year to the divisional round, the Rockets having a lot of young up-and-coming talent.
And could be a playoff team.
I think they'll definitely be a play-in team.
I think so.
But this is the best time to be a Houston sports fan right now. This is incredible. And I just pray that the Houston management does not screw this up like you've done multiple times.
Please do not.
Yeah, I first truly became a three-sport Houston fan probably in 2005 or 2006. It was right around the time we had T-Mac and Yao.
Yeah.
The Astros were coming off the heels of that Roger Clemens, Andy Pettit era.
Yeah.
When they lost to the White Sox.
Swept by the White Sox.
I'm about to say got swept because
tough times. Yeah, that was my first bout with sports depression in middle school. And then the Texans were on the verge of moving on from the David Carr experiment and moving on to Matt Schaub and that Kubiak offensive zone scheme. And ever since that run, that era, we've experienced darkness in more ways than one, right? We've had the sun blocked out by the black hole of death, Bill O'Brien's chin, just sucking life, happiness out of NRG
and
Stadium.
He still manages to find a job, but we can talk about that at some point.
How many years has it been since DeAndre Hopkins was traded for a bag of Cheetos by Bill
still
O'Brien?
pisses me off.
5.
It's taken 5 years for
5
this
years.
franchise to rehab itself and open its doors to DeAndre Hopkins, who's been linked to reports of wanting to join this team. We had Bill O'Brien's chin blocking life. We had the aftermath of the stripper economy being devastated after James Harden left the city.
That is true.
And then the Astros, for Christ's sake, weren't even on TV. They were blacked out so poorly because of fan attendance at Minute Maid from from like 2007 all the way to 2015 that you couldn't even see them on TV.
You get a ticket for like $3.
You
It was
can
nuts.
you can get a ticket in the nosebleeds
And just walk down.
right on down the.
Those El Tiempo margarita challenges at Minute Maid during that stretch were dark times for a lot of people.
I bet.
For a lot of alcoholics, I bet. And now it seems like there's a rainbow on the horizon, right? The birds are out and they're chirping. Kids are in the streets. The weather's kind of nice. And it seems like life is bustling again in the streets of Houston. I'm excited, but hesitant and skeptical because of some of the front office blunders that we've seen with former Houston championship products, right? We saw that Rockets team in 2018, which was by all measures a championship team,
For sure.
get dismantled by Tillman Fertitta and his ownership group.
Correct.
We saw Bill O'Brien basically dismantle winning components of a championship Texans team after that 22 lead to the Chiefs that we blew in, I don't know, 2018 or 2019.
That was 2019.
Yeah.
And then the
2019,
Astros.
because that was his first Super Bowl.
Yeah, the Astros have been, held up on the heels of an immigrant cash economy in the form of this system that they have with Altuve, Jordan, these Cubans, these Venezuelans. So you just hope the borders stay open for them. It's promising. I don't know where you guys want to start, which team you want to start with, but I can talk for the next hour about Houston sports with where it's at.
I mean, the both of you hit the nail on the head. So we'll just start with a team. Houston Astros.
The Warriors of basketball.
The Warriors of
Yeah,
basketball.
definitely.
Yep. Warriors of basketball.
Definitely.
A team that you want to talk about, you have to go through someone to get somewhere. The AL runs through Houston, y'all. And
It
it's
does.
good. And I think it's fair to say
100%.
that in terms of, roster building and looking at winning components in baseball, having the depth at starting pitching, having a bullpen, having consistent hitters that have been with the ball club and establish a culture, it's all there for the Astros, and I would project out probably another 2-year window of dominance at this level that they're at, where you start the season and the conversation starts and ends with Houston.
Yeah. I think with the Astros, I mean, you're 100% right. Like the last 7 years, ALCS.
7 straight.
Seven straight ALCS, which I'm going to take this from your podcast because I actually listened to the last episode. Shout out to the Texas Rangers. Y'all got lucky. Y'all got lucky. You really got lucky. You really did. But I will say, I do believe the AL does run through Houston. But, I mean, again, Texas Rangers, like they are right. I mean, right at the heel because DeGrom's coming back. I mean, they got some good pieces. But, I mean, Houston loaded up too. We got Josh Hader.
We needed it.
We needed that. Now, so if which you alluded to, because you said they got about 2 more years, and I agree. If our pitching can stay healthy, I think it could probably extend maybe another 2 years. So if McCullers can stay healthy, if Garcia can stay healthy, if Verlander can stay healthy, hell, because I mean he's 40, 41.
But you're
42?
asking a lot out of McCullers.
I know,
McCullers hasn't
but
stayed healthy in
asking,
forever.
But you're
Yeah.
asking a lot. But I mean, we like as far as infield, outfield. I think we're set for another.
As long as Diaz is the everyday catcher,
As long, yeah, like
we'll be fine.
yeah. I think we're good. But if our pitching can stay level headed, I think we can extend that for probably another 2 years.
I think that, in my opinion, what happened last year to the Astros, they were trying to break in new guys to the rotation, especially Hunter Brown. They were trying to, you could see it as the season went on.
yeah.
He wasn't used to pitching that many innings, and his arm was giving out. He didn't have the same velocity, the same stuff. So I feel like this year he'll be much better.
Yeah,
for the Astros.
the similarities to Verlander are profound, but at the end of the day, you don't have Kate Upton to give you back rubs after the game to rehab yourself and come out at another level. So
You don't.
Hunter Brown's got some steps to take to get there. But, Evan, you mentioned pitching, which is a great point. Garcia was out the entire year last year.
McCullers was out the entire year.
McCullers, who's paid as a top 3 starting pitcher in this league,
Gave us nothing.
Nothing the entire year. And then you throw Josh Hader into the mix here with this team, and it's exciting. But last year, I feel like even the hitters, the starting lineup of this team, was missing at various points of the year.
It was.
I mean,
They weren't all
inconsistent-
clicking.
Inconsistent. From
Kyle
the
Tucker
jump.
was carrying that lineup
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
vast majority of the season.
Yeah.
Jose Altuve, arguably the best player in Houston Astros history, missing all but the last third of the season. And then he's the best player on the roster on the playoffs.
He is.
You extrapolate that out to a full season, and you just hope to get most of this lineup healthy. And you hope to get Abreu, the first baseman they signed for stupid money out of Chicago. Mm-hmm. You hope to get the production you got out of him the last 3 weeks of the season onwards into the playoffs. And I think, again, like you're right up there with the Rangers for possession of the lead in this division.
So I actually have a question for the both of you, and then we'll move on to the next Houston sports teams. Do you think the Astros need to add a couple more pieces? So a couple names that are floating around. Blake Snell is still out there. Cody Bellinger is still out there. Do you think they need to add another piece or leave it as is and let it run through that 2-3 year 4 window?
You want to take this one?
I think they need to continue to build up the farm system currently because
that's what got them here.
You made a point you and the Bill made a point. We're not going to have Bregman for much longer.
Yeah.
So we need to find his replacement ASAP.
I mean, Tucker, you've got for 2 years.
We haven't re-signed Tucker either.
No,
so
and Tucker's going to demand huge money. And the other person that's on the horizon, we need to start having a discussion of how much longer Altuve is going to play, or at least play at a high level. That's another part of it. And then our shortstop, Pena needs to. Pena, I love you.
Are you a believer?
I believe in you, but you need to hit, my man. They had you in the 8 hole at certain points in the season.
Hey, my brother.
It's not good enough.
I'm going to look into this camera. No more HEB commercials.
Yes. None.
Get into the batting cage.
None.
What you did in the ALCS, hot garbage.
Hot garbage.
And
garbage.
He's been dropping some thirst trap Instagram photos over the summer of him looking bulked. I'm just like...
Forget that.
Just make contact with the ball, my guy. You're not trying to throw this thing out of the stadium.
He needs to be like LeBron, go 0 dark 23.
So 0 dark 30.
Don't do nothing. Just
trying to hit the ball out the park, man. Don't do that. We need you to hit for average and not home runs. We got enough power hitters in that lineup.
Yeah. And I don't know where that money is going to come from to add another piece to this roster. Like, you're already looking and projecting at where you're going to spend the money to retain a lot of the guys you have in-house. And they've moved a lot of those pieces from their farm system away to bring in talent. Like
exactly.
Their best outfielder, they had to move out to bring Verlander back in-house. So, I don't know. Gilbert, yeah. And you don't really have a lot left in the farm system outside of maybe 2 young prospects who aren't even gold-level prospects.
Right.
But I think you can make do with what you have.
Definitely.
I think so.
We took the Rangers to 7 games. They're the ultimate World Series champions. What team outside of the Astros took them to more than 5 games?
Nobody.
So I've got confidence in where we're at.
It's an arms race right now. Who can come out the AL, the Rangers or the Astros, and can you beat the Dodgers?
Yeah, and it's Dallas. They're going to find a way to screw things up. The Dodgers. Oh, my God. Just got to hope they keep choking, brother.
And if I don't even want to get into that topic right now because they are loaded. All right, so let's switch gears. So the Rockets.
Do you want to start there? Do you want to go to the Texans? Jalen had 31 and 11 tonight. Okay, Jalen.
Ever since we dropped the Jalen Green episode, he's had 4 straight double-doubles in efficient performances.
Well, damn, the Rockets lost, though.
They did lost. 110 to 99.
Damn. Oh. All right, anyway. So, what, you want to do Rockets or Texans?
I suggest the Texans because the Rockets is going to go for a while.
It's going to be contentious.
All right, so Texans. Wes,
the Texans
spearheaded.
Keep doing what you're doing. My only question to the group, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, I wrote down some offseason moves the Texans need to make. We need to add wide receiver help.
Yep.
We need to help the D-line / pass rush in some way, whether it's interior or an edge player. And I feel as if we also need another safety to go along with Petrie. I feel like those would really be things that would help. I didn't put the offensive line on there, guys, because the offensive line was injured. It's not that we don't have the talent. They were injured, so they'll be back. But how do you guys feel about us adding those certain pieces, and who would be some people to add to this team?
So let me piggyback off your wide receiver point because I've heard that consistently brought up with the Texans, whether it's draft need or a guy like Mike Evans out of Tampa that they've been linked to for the longest time. I might be the only Texans fan in my friend group, Nabil, my co-host of Not Your Weekly Sports Pod included. Y'all, there's a slew of talent at wide receiver already on this. Like, am I crazy? Nico Collins looks like a prototype.
Number one.
Number
he came
one
out
receiver.
smoking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tank Dell showed you that given a full season, he's a 1,400-yard guy, and he's your stretch guy. I don't know how much faith I want to put in a guy like Mechie, but Mechie was a first-round draft talent who, if not for leukemia and tearing his ACL, was going to be one of those slot receivers that was looking really nice. And Mechie really finally started coming into his own the last few weeks of the season. And, I'd like to say it takes a year to get over cancer as a professional athlete, maybe. So he looks like he might have a role in this league as well. It's going to be real interesting to me if we're talking about receiver help for C.J. Stroud, whether or not they re-sign Dalton Schultz or not, because he looked like a huge safety blanket for C.J.
He was. He really was.
So where do you want to see them go? Do you want to see draft talent? Do you want to see a free agent wide receiver? Do you want to see Schultz back? The weaponry around CJ, I think, is going to be a big part of his development going forward, as we've seen with young guys like Patrick Mahomes having a Travis Kelce attached to him. So where do you guys see as far as the Texans going, or where would you like to see them going with weapons?
Y'all might think I'm crazy, but if you're the Texans, given how the draft order is set up in the top 10, the first 7 picks of the draft are probably going to be all offense until you get to Atlanta at 8. Atlanta is going to be the swing pick in that top 10. But I think if you're the Texans and you see how it's falling and Atlanta is sitting there at 8 and Brock Bowers is sitting there for C.J. Stroud, I think you trade up and you go get Brock Bowers. And you put him with the weapons that Vala just alluded to. You don't have to re-sign Schultz at that point, and you get Bowers on a rookie deal. I think that would be the move in the first round.
That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
That's pretty solid. No, I mean, where would I like to see him go? I mean, if anything, probably going out to and just testing free agency, just see what's out there. I don't know the big names that are out that are
T. Higgins.
T. Higgins,
Mike Evans.
DeAndre Hopkins,
Brian Burns.
I don't know if they'll pull away T. Higgins from Cincinnati. I'm not sure. I would like to see DeAndre come back if he wanted to. But that's probably my biggest thing, because, I mean, you already brought in a great head coach who's obviously just changed the complete landscape of the organization.
Agreed.
You got C.J. Stroud, who basically wiped clean the whole Deshaun Watson ordeal.
Correct.
So, now you have a new face as a head coach. You have a new face as a quarterback. So, and then they made it to the damn divisional game. And they were projected not even to make the playoffs. So
the over-under in Vegas was like 5.5 wins.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a huge jump, and I think right now the Texans are in a good spot. I would just like for them to test free agency and see who they can pull away, who they can lure over, and like y'all said, CJ's development is going to be huge, especially if they can pick up those weapons.
So right now, I think important free agents that the Texans are going to have on the block to re-sign. You've got guys like one of their better corners, Steven Nelson.
Yep.
You've got, I believe,
Grenard.
like we mentioned, Grenard is another big one as well. The safety opposite Petrie is a free agent as well, I believe. You got a lot of Dalton Schultz we mentioned as well. You're going to have some cap space to play around with. So would y'all entertain the idea of giving top dollar money to a guy like A.J. Brown if he were to put his money where his mouth is and actually want to come out and play with C.J. Stroud in H-Town?
I don't think that's the guy you go get in Philly. I think it's Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go get Devontae up out of Philly. He's not going to cost you as much as AJ either, because he hasn't been putting up number one numbers. He's still on the rookie deal, so he needs to get paid. But you're not going to be paying him what you pay AJ. AJ is making top
AJ
five.
was what, 150?
5. AJ get that
Something
bag.
like that?
125.
125? Okay.
Yeah, you're not going to have to pay Devontae Smith that.
That's true.
You got CJ on that rookie deal, man. This is Seattle Seahawks mid-2000s territory where you got this elite of a quarterback talent making that salary figure. Yeah. This is your window, man. This
is it.
This free agency is everything for the Texans. And Nick Caserio has been money in the last 2 drafts and money with these one-year prove-it guys. I'm excited to see what he does. But there's some other pieces out there they need as well. The O-line, let's see if they can get healthy. Running back is a big question mark. Do you
got
stick
Austin
with Singletary?
Eckler. You got Derrick Henry on the market. You got guys like that. Or you go into the draft and get a guy. You could potentially get a Jonathan Brooks out of Texas in the second or third round to come in. He is going to have to recover from the ACL, but he's a guy you could take later. Maybe a Tony Pollard, maybe even.
We're done with the Dameon Pierce experiment. That's over
done.
with?
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay.
He's too much of a bruiser for his body is going to break down consistently.
Yeah, I think that mold of running back in the NFL it's lived its last day, unfortunately.
So our tech and audio guy hates us right now. So we're going to kind of
He'll be all right.
We're going to kind of somewhat speed through this last part. So the Rockets.
Don't speed.
We can talk all night about the Rockets, and I know our tech and audio guy's probably going to fall asleep at some point if we do get to that point. But my question to y'all is, who do you think the Rockets should go after, either at the trade deadline or for the summer, to really boost up this roster that we have currently? So I can think of two people right now.
It's a philosophical question you're asking, but go ahead and give me your two names and let's go from there.
I think the Rockets should go after Trae Young, and I think they should go after Mikal Bridges.
I love the Bridges one. I love Mikal.
And the only reason I said that is because the Nets rejected the Rockets' offer for like multiple first round picks or whatever. But I feel like if you throw, hate to say it, maybe if you throw like a Jalen Green in there.
So you ready to go there?
No, I'm not. I'm not ready. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing a name out. I'm not saying do it. I'm just throwing a name out. Maybe throw a player out there to get that, to really get them to think like, okay, maybe, So we'll think about it.
So the Houston Rockets right now, as it stands, right, they're the number 10 seed as of the loss tonight. So they're about a game out of the play-in seed.
They are they're number 11, but yes.
So a game, I believe, last I checked out of the play-in game.
It was a game earlier.
A game and a half.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, they don't have their draft pick this year. Mm-hmm. So there's no incentive to lose. Your incentive is to win and to maximize whatever you can with this roster right now. However, do you want to give up assets that you've been building up that really is kind of this last chip that you have on this team to make a move that really might be your last move with this asset development, this asset accumulation that Raphael Stone has made over the last 3 years of this rebuild? Do you think that move is enough to move you into contention territory? Or is it enough to combine with one of these second or third year guys taking a leap somewhere in the next year to catapult you into contention territory?
I think you're going to have to bank on those second or third year guys to make that leap, because you don't really just trade players within their second or third year. So if you're going to draft them that high, you're banking on them saying like, okay, like you're going to be a 2010 guy, you're going to be a 25 per game scorer, etc. Blah blah blah.
Right.
So like, I guess in a way you're going to have to build around them and see what happens. But I would say by year 4, maybe 5 of those two, between those rookies and sophomores or whatever, you're going to have to eventually start moving some pieces if they haven't made that jump.
You ready, Evan?
I'm listening.
You ready? I've been patiently waiting for this topic.
Let's get it.
At this point in the Rockets rebuild and where they are right now, they're at a teetering point. You're gonna have to make a move. You're running dead into the problem that OKC was running into. They have all those picks. You see OKC is trading off picks left and right. You can't keep all of them, and you don't need all these players that come from it. So my thing would be for the Rockets. I think that now would be the time to make a move, but it might not be Jalen. You might have to put together a package of Jabari Smith and Cam.
Wow.
And really try to go out and get another wing player like a Mikal Bridges to partner with the Jalen Green. But I don't want to see Jabari go. Just the way the roster's set up, it's easier to get rid of Jabari or Jalen because you have Cam and Tari. Tari Eason is the one that gets forgotten about a lot on this team.
I think
because
Tari
he's been
Eason's
injured.
Gonna be your dark horse though. I don't think you should trade him right.
No, I'm saying that Cam and Tari would be the replacements for a Jalen or a Jabari. where you can slide them in and they can go and do the same exact things. Because if you look at the PERs on this team, Sengun is 15th in the league at 22.5. Van Fleet is next on the team at 81st in the league, 16.1.
That's a huge gap.
Yeah.
That's a huge gap.
Then you get to Jabari Smith. He's at 14.3. Cam Whitmore is at 18.3, but he doesn't qualify. Tari Eason, 17.1, but again, doesn't qualify. Jalen Green is down at 13.6. This is the worst year of his career. And if you look at Cam's last 10 games, 13 points, 5 rebounds. He does not get assists. He's at half an assist. 44% from the field, 38 from 3. Cam Whitmore can be that Jalen Green replacement. So I feel like if you can push Jalen to a New York, to a Brooklyn, to a team that will utilize his strengths, because this Rockets team is not set up for his strengths currently with Van Fleet and Brooks being there. So that would be a good move, and then you can slide Cam Whitmore right into that starting lineup.
So I agree with you in that Jalen Green, if there's going to be a moment where this Rockets team makes a watershed trade or a splash, Jalen Green's name is going to be tied to it, whether we like it or not.
To be.
Correct.
However, I'm going to play the devil's advocate because I've been on the other side of this too many times. I've been a proponent of moving Green. I think Green's been misutilized, and I think he's been mismanaged as a prospect for the first 2 years of his career in Houston with Steven Silas. However, in his defense, this is a guy who's just is playing NBA basketball for the first time this year, professional basketball for the first time this year. When you go to the G League culture, the G League Ignite, that is.
Right.
And you look at the way they develop a lot of these guys, it's a lot of like isolation sets.
Right.
It's a lot of showcasing. It's not a lot of winning basketball. And you see that because you've got some of the best prospects in that system and they still don't go into the G League playoffs and do anything. Jalen spent a year there and didn't go and play at the highest competition levels at NCAA basketball. Jalen comes in the league and basically plays AAU basketball with Steven Silas.
Correct.
And Kevin
no
Porter
system.
Jr.
Yeah.
Now that he has Ime, you got to ask yourself from a cost-benefit analysis standpoint whether it's worth it to give Jalen up for pennies on the dollar, or if you owe it to the guy, if you owe it to drafting him second overall, to give this 21-year-old maybe a few months to see him figure it out and see him learn how to play basketball in a winning environment. And from all the reports I've read, the last 4 games, he's had 4 straight double-doubles, where in the first 3 years of his career, he didn't have a single one.
Right.
So Ime has talked a lot about one-on-one sessions with him. John Lucas is in the front office, a great player, mentor, development guy.
Great guy.
I don't think what you can get out of Jalen right now as a depreciated asset is worth the upside of keeping him and taking him either into the summer, where these draft picks and these rookie contract guys are truly maximized in this new CBA agreement.
Agreed.
Where you really can't have 2 max salary guys anymore.
Right.
It's going to just bankrupt your ability to be flexible. And like we've seen with Philly, you have the precedent of Tyrese Maxey going to restricted free agency. So with Jalen Green, I think that's an option the Rockets are going to take. I don't know. I think a trade that you're more likely to see from them, having followed the team pretty closely this year, is something along the lines of a Jashawn Tate, maybe that first-round draft pick that the Nets is projected to be bottom 8, which would have a 25% chance of landing top 4, and perhaps Cam Whitmore, maybe Amen. God, I hope not Jabari. I think Jabari is going to be – he's going to take a jump soon, man.
I really like
love
Jabari
him.
too. I don't want to get rid of Jabari.
But he's the most attractive trade piece on the team. If you really look at the entire scope of the team, Jabari's the one. If I'm a GM of another team, I might not want Jalen. I think I might want Jabari.
You guys hear about the Knicks proposing Quentin fucking Grimes for Tari Eason?
Yeah.
Hell,
What are y'all smoking, bro?
No.
Yeah, that was awful.
No.
That doesn't make
This
any sense.
isn't New York where the rats pick up pieces of pizza and you're not taking Tari Eason from us. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
You can do Quentin Grimes for Jashawn Tate, but you are not doing no Tari Eason.
I actually have a
way.
trade for you guys that I thought of. I don't know how the salary works out because I couldn't figure out how to make the salaries work. But Charlotte and Houston make a trade.
Okay.
We get LaMelo Ball.
Who we
Fred
giving up?
Van Fleet. Fred. And you got to either send Jabari or Tari to Charlotte along with future first-round picks.
Probably both.
Probably both, but we would get LaMelo back to pair him with Sengun and Jalen in that scenario.
Realistically, I mean, yes, you would probably have to give up both, but if in a dream world, it would be Fred, Tari, and some picks.
Correct.
Because we would want to keep Jabari.
You would want to keep Jabari, but the other team is going to want Jabari.
Yeah.
Again, like, let me go from the other side of this here. What's Charlotte's incentive to bring in a guy who just signed a 5-year max salary contract in
To
Fred VanVleet?
lose.
Yeah.
To lose.
That's an expensive losing ticket, brother.
The Charlotte has done dumber. They drafted Adam Morrison at 3.
True, but the second best player in NBA history, Michael Jordan's not dragging their front office down anymore. So I don't know who's making that
I was
decision.
gonna say Michael done got out of there real quick.
But see, do you believe in Brandon Miller then? Because are
Brandon
they
Miller
turning the corner?
Brandon Miller is solid.
I think Cam
He's
Whitmore
solid.
is a better prospect than Brandon Miller. I think
Right.
Cam Whitmore right now, if you redo the draft from what we've seen,
he was a steal.
it's
He was
Wemby
a
and then
steal.
Cam. A lot
Agreed.
of players in that draft class are saying that right now.
Agreed. Because Cam Ben had they said it before the draft. Oh, Cam Whitmore should be a top 5 pick.
Top 5.
But then he ends up sliding
To 20.
sliding out the lottery, and Houston snatches him up. So I mean, it's the same thing as when Sengun was drafted. Except he was drafted by OKC, but that's the same type of thing. Like guys like that will slip through the cracks, and then you snatch them up. But at a certain point, guys, we're gonna have to probably get rid of Jalen Green.
Y'all think there's any? This is something that I asked Nabil, and he disagreed with me, but I think it's fair to ask. Is there any chance this front office doesn't envision Şengün as the centerpiece right now?
If they're crazy.
They were crazy when they started Bruno Fernando over him last year. That's what scares me about the Rockets. Like,
What pissed me off about that rebuild is that you bring in a guy like Sengun and he's sitting multiple games behind Christian Wood. Bruno
Yeah.
Fernando. There was another guy.
That Christian Wood signing was ridiculous.
There was another big guy. I forgot his name. But basically he's the fourth string.
Yeah.
Behind them?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. So like you, I mean, they'd be smoking dope if they don't make him your centerpiece.
The Rockets have been mismanaged for years. Years. Like, we traded for an injured T-Mac in the past. Like, T-Mac was injured before he ever got to Houston. I don't know why we made that trade. That was ridiculous.
T-Mac's
it
my
was
guy, though.
you were
I'm
weighing the
sorry.
options of T-Mac's knee versus Steve Francis's crack pipe. It was a tough decision, but
It wasn't a very tough decision. The crack pipe is always going to win.
yeah, it did. Man, there's some stories I'm not going to get into on camera. Willard's like, yeah.
Y'all seen that picture
hear
of
that.
him post-career. It was it's rough for Stevie
boy.
franchise,
Yes,
man.
indeed. Y'all mentioned a player. So if we talked about Şengün, let me expand on that point. Alperen Şengün, like elevator pitch me. Who is Alperen Şengün? Who do you see as a basketball player when you watch him? We see a potential homegrown centerpiece guy that I think Houstonians are going to embrace going forward if the front office allows it. Who do you guys see here?
As far as like a player comp from someone in the past, Jokic is the obvious comparison
I was gonna say
currently,
Jokic.
but someone that comes from the past, talking, pass the ball, play in the post. Man,
It's a real short list.
he's like a one of one though. It's a
real
hard
short
thing.
list.
He's truly a one of one. Like I want to say Dirk, but he can't shoot like Dirk.
I mean,
but
if
he's better on
anything-
the
yeah.
block.
If
than
anything,
Dirk.
maybe a smidget of Timmy,
The big fundamental.
a smidget.
Evan, you up in some high altitude right here when we start talking about Timmy Duncan,
a
man.
smidget. I didn't say he was Tim. I said a smidget, because you got to think about it. He can score. He's very fundamental for his size too.
He is
That's why I said a smidget.
a smidgen,
A
a
smidge.
smidgen,
A
not the
small-
greatest
small-
power forward to ever live,
a
but
very
a
small,
smidgen.
a very small grain. But yes,
Like, oh man, or maybe even like a Kevin McHale would probably be a better comparison for him. Someone from the real old school,
Maybe.
Mikhail, Sabonis' dad, components of, I mean, dare I say, Hakeem with that footwork. Y'all see the way he spins off guys in the baseline, spins back, up fakes, head fakes. This is an era of basketball like you don't see guys post up with their back to the basket anymore.
You don't.
Never.
Right? Like
everything is 3-pointing out.
we saw the center phased out after 2013, And it's almost like basketball is circling in on itself, and we're seeing the return of dominant.
It's coming back.
Right? Whether it's Jokic or Embiid being the last 2 MVP candidates, even Giannis playing a sort of dominant Shaq-like role at the 4.
Wemby,
and Chet, man, that OKC game
Is going-
with San Antonio was fun, dude. Watching those two just Neanderthals go after each other was fun. So Al P, add his name to the list. I think All-Star snub this year for sure, but a center giving you 22, 9, and 6 on the splits he's giving you, the best player on the Rockets team that has been the worst team in the league the last 3 years in a row.
Agreed.
He's been the face of this turnaround. And you want to talk about guys who are going to be in that most improved player running. I think he's right up there with maybe 2 other guys on that list.
Nice.
Yeah. You know what, Val? I wanted to ask you something. This is an underrated prospect that I feel like is being wasted. If you're the Rockets, would you think about going and get Jaden Ivey out of Detroit?
I don't know if Detroit wants to sell on him yet.
Because
But I
they're
would-
not going anywhere currently with Cade and the team they have. So I would think since Monty doesn't seem to want to keep him off the bench, I don't understand that.
But you got to remember, the Rockets already have a plethora of guards.
But are any of those guards as good as has the ceiling of what Jaden Ivey
Oh,
has?
ceiling, I think Green still has a higher ceiling than Ivy. Whether he's going to reach it is a huge question mark. But this is what the Rockets need. If you guys are talking about transforming this team into a legitimate championship contender, we stop screwing around with the play-in talk and we go to the next level. Number one, you need size. You need a backup center that can play in the NBA.
We don't have one.
Jock Londell's not that guy.
Boban is not that guy.
The Boban signs at Toyota Center will live on forever, but he's not that guy, right?
Not that guy.
He's not that guy.
So you need a backup big, number one. They've been linked to Robert Williams in the past out of Charlotte.
Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond has been a big
linked to the
one.
Rockets.
Kelly Olynyk, I think, is a realistic one for this year at least. And then on top of that, you need a guard who can score the fucking basket. I'm sorry. Can you guys curse on this podcast?
Yeah.
You got to be able to score the fucking ball. This team is one Jalen Green third-year leap away from being a top 5 to 6 team in the
Agreed.
West. And the fact that you didn't get that, you actually got a Jalen Green regression, is the most frustrating part of watching this season. And if you look at it from a macrocosm standpoint, it's been the biggest failure of this organization, which has been not properly evaluating the young talent you have on this team.
Correct.
We don't know what any of these guys, other than Şengün, like we really don't know what we have, right?
Thompson, you don't know about.
Amen, the ankle injury out of your hands. He's kind of buried on the bench. Cam Whitmore, he really only started playing the last 15 games of the season.
Correct.
And has been getting
buckets.
Been getting busy these past few
Just
games.
in 20 minutes a game, he's giving you almost double-digit scoring on 50% plus clip. So you're going to see a lot more of him as well. But Jabari, you're not sure what's there. Jalen, you're not sure what's there. And Tari, Tari is giving you all the 10.7 rebounds, 50-50 ball, intangibles. He's doing all that without any system.
Correct.
And I think Tari is one of those guys. If you want to talk about flipping a roster and winning you a playoff game or two, I called him the Trevor Ariza of the LA Lakers on our podcast because I think that's exactly the kind of guy he can
I
be
actually
for
like
you.
that. I like that a lot.
And the fact that he looks so promising on a wishy-washy roster speaks volumes about what I think he'll be in a winning system once he fills that body out more. So I think personally, you keep this roster generally the same if you're the Rockets. You wait to see what you really have in these players under Ime and this veteran leadership that's only been in-house for, 4 months so far? And you work around the edges of your roster. You move Jayshawn Tate and maybe a pick for a legitimate center. You talk about maintaining your flexibility in being able to move a young prospect for, I don't know if you can get a Mikal Bridges. I don't know if you can get a Trae Young. I don't know if you can get, I think someone like DeJounte Murray is a realistic target if you're looking at dumping those Brooklyn assets and picking up another guy. But for right now, if I had to predict what's going to happen come trade deadline, no splash.
I don't think so either.
No, not this
No,
year. Not this year. It's probably next year. Next year, this time, if this team is performing like this, oh yeah, it's gonna be some people getting up out of it.
It's time to get some furniture moving. It's time.
Tillman has proven that he is not a patient owner when it comes to putting winning pieces on the table, in a negative way. That is
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Man, I just wish that the Rockets would just make. I really want to see Mikal Bridges down here. I think he's the perfect fit for this team.
Perfect, yes,
he can
absolutely.
play defense. He can score the ball. He doesn't need the ball in his hand necessarily
Tertiary
all the
playmaker.
time.
Yep.
Yes, it'll unlock Jalen's game because now it's like, all right, Jalen. The offense is you and Sengun. You do what you need to do. I'll be over here when y'all need me to bail y'all out. And I can also defend the best player. Me and Brooks can defend the best two offensive players on the other end of the floor to save your legs. Because Sengun's next step as a player is to become a better defender.
Yeah.
Yep, it's going to have to be.
He's taken steps in the right direction this year, but consistency is key for him. You're right. How do y'all feel about having the NBA villain on this team? Has it been, I'll say, being live at a Rockets game, Dylan Brooks changes the entire game day experience.
Dylan the villain.
I'll be honest. So going into this summer, it was clear that we needed to make a change. We talked about it off camera about the whole KPJ thing because we said, like, you know, with the Rockets bringing in Freddie V, where's that going to move KPJ? And it just so happened that he moved himself off the Rockets, but we don't have to go into that.
He's not emotionally mature enough to handle it.
Kenyon Morton's dad said it's the best thing that happened for this entire roster.
So
Agreed.
so then you look into getting a coach. I think Ime was the perfect fit because now, kind of like you said, like, you know, the last few years under Steven Silas, we've been playing LA Fitness AAU ball, right?
Winning off of talent.
Ime is going to hold these guys accountable, and I don't think there's no other perfect person to really fit that mold other than Dylan Brooks, because he is that hard-nosed defensive guy. And that's only not just from the head coach, but from somebody that's on the floor. That's going to just trickle down like, okay, like if Dylan's going to play defense, I'm going to play defense.
Correct.
It just goes just in a huge it just looks amazing right now. Like you actually see that they want to play. Like they show effort on defensive end. Now, I mean, sometimes does it really result in it? Because, I mean, some teams are still averaging 115, 120, but the effort is there. So
through the first 15 games of the season, they were a top 6 defense in the league until injuries hit.
Solid.
And then, you know, the rest of the roster kind of dismantled
Solid.
from there. But you see the foundation being built.
You see it.
And for a team that, y'all remember in free agency, people were dogging the Rockets, man.
Yeah.
They were saying, like, you can either go to Miami and, like, have that culture, or you can go hoop on the playground with, like, that organization.
Correct.
And their AAU style.
Them guys over there.
More than anything else this year, I think this has been a rebranding campaign. And
For sure.
it's been a success at that, man. It's been fun to see.
Yeah.
It's been a very good time watching the Rockets, man. I look forward to seeing where the future holds.
I look
and
forward to it, too.
A blessing in disguise that we did not get that number 2 pick and take Scoot Henderson.
Damn. Yeah, he's
Yes.
looked bad, dude.
That actually turned out to be a blessing in
It turned out
disguise.
great.
He's looked bad.
He's looked
Turned
very
out great.
bad in Portland. Anthony Simons has been the best player on that team.
Y'all's episode where you talked about is Jalen Green a top 10 shooting guard?
No.
I posted like 15 shooting guards in the comment on the Instagram story. People were saying Anthony Simons has no place being on that list. What?
It was so early in the season. I don't
it was
think people
really
were
early,
really
yeah.
paying
Do
attention.
they know who
but he's
Anthony
on-
Simons is? Like, this is a
Bucket.
25-5 on 55%
bucket
splits
man.
guy. What?
Yeah, he's
I
a
don't know.
walking bucket.
Walking bucket.
And Jalen's still not a top 10 shooting guard, Evan. It's still the
I'll say
truth.
this.
Man,
I'll say
top
this.
20 is
He-
questionable now.
He really made me look bad, and not only did he make me look bad, but he may put him in a doghouse for a couple.
Right
days.
after we had
But,
that
literally right after we had the
conversation.
conversation, so I'm like, fuck, dude, like it's just making me look bad. But anyway, man, I think that's all that we got.
We gotta
for
give
today.
Willie a
We
break.
gotta, we gotta get Willie some food or something. But shout out to our man Vala for pulling up, man.
Definitely, man. Appreciate
and also
you coming.
check out his pod, Not Your Weekly Sports Pod. You can check it out on Spotify. Make sure y'all tune in, man. Hey, appreciate you coming through.
Always,
Thank you.
Even just being back with you guys and kicking back sports is a privilege. Obviously, we're going to have y'all on the podcast soon.
Got
Yeah,
to.
So
absolutely.
y'all stay tuned. We'll promo their episode. They'll promo us when we have them on as well.
And we definitely got to have, we didn't speak about it. It was silent in the room, but the shirt was loud. We're going to have this debate.
Go ahead and show it off. Yeah.
We're going to have this debate.
Go ahead and show it off. Oh, Goat James.
The only GOAT there was the man in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
They
Got
called
it.
him Black
Got you.
Jesus for
Got
a
you.
reason.
But before we go out, I actually have a quick shout out. So shout out to my homie J Mac out in Malvern, Arkansas. He's doing his thing with the Money Way Music Entertainment. So follow him on YouTube. If you're an up and coming artist in your local city. Follow, hit that up. But we're going to close it out, man. I'm Evan.
Wes.
And our special guest, Vala, in the building. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, follow us on, or check us out on Spotify and Apple Music. And we out.
Yes, sir.
H-Town, baby.
My man. Good shit, guys.